Welcome to another episode of Stay Modern with Murray, brought to you by Murray Custom Homes, where we build your dream home together. Now sit back, buckle up, and enjoy the ride with your host, Matt Murray.
Thank you guys for joining us on another episode of Stay Modern with Murray. Today we actually have Zach Frank from ABC Supply. Zach, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. I'm sure you've listened to some of our podcasts before.
Yep.
So we gave you a little bit of an outline, but I don't think we're going to need it. Thank you. Well, before you was Dustin Hitchler.
Yep.
When we first went over to ABC Supply. Zach handles pretty much all of our purchases, not only on the roofing side, but on the custom home side.
Yep, and commercial.
Commercial as well. So tell us a little bit about what our relationship is, what you do, what your role is.
Sure. Right now, salesman, but outside of that, we pretty much have to do everything. It comes down to there's not just one position with ABC or, when you're looking for a relationship and a partnership, you have to kind of do everything.
Yep.
Outside of, driving a truck and having a CDL, running material out, exchanges, quotes, you name it. We pretty much have to do everything. So a relationship kind of started on that end where I knew Hitchler beforehand, and he was a big part of me coming on board.
Yep.
And then ABC was actually a customer of mine as well. So I did staffing for 10 years beforehand. I ran a couple branches there, and ABC was a customer of mine. So talking to Dustin and knowing that he was exiting that role, I inquired a little bit more on it and kind of started getting the ball rolling. And, when he was breaking up accounts and said that we should partner together, it kind of clicked from there. So.
Yep. I remember that. Were you out of Omaha?
At that time I was.
Were you living in Omaha?
No, I was living in Lincoln. I commuted. So it was 16 hours a day. And, with little ones, that's tough. So.
Yeah. And it was, if I remember correctly, how long ago was it that we started working together?
4 years.
So were we still in our first office?
Yeah. So I was just asking Tom that it wasn't the duplex. So you guys were in your very first office.
Yes.
And because at first.
By the T.O. Haas.
Yes. And then you moved to the second office.
Yep.
And then now this third one.
Yep. Yeah. Because I remember you coming into the first office.
Yep.
But that transition is a little unique in the sense that I felt really bad for you because Dustin, has big shoes.
Yeah.
Dustin, big cuddly bear. can't go wrong with him.
Yeah.
And then I remember when you came in that you didn't have a pricing sheet.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of trial by fire with you. You didn't have pricing, and it was the first time in a long time we were forced to use somebody else because you simply didn't have pricing.
Yep.
I just kept saying we got to get to know this Zach guy because I don't expect him to get our business if we don't get to know him.
Right.
Because like what you're saying, it's all about personal relationships. And then secondly, how does he expect us to buy from him when we didn't have our new pricing sheet from you?
Yeah.
So it was a tough beginning intro there.
Exactly.
But then, as you know, Murray, you took us out a few times and wooed us and bought us some beer.
Yeah, some beer, some good times, fun events, those types of things. But, a big part of it, too, was I had a huge learning curve ahead of me. Coming in from the staffing side, I know people, I know the industry from there. But coming into the commercial and the residential and the roofing and siding and just exterior work in general, I had a lot of late nights and just learning about the industry, what had to happen. So, it's one of those where I don't want to tell you a price and didn't want to tell you something I didn't know.
Yep.
So I knew I had big shoes to fill and a big hill ahead of me, but I did what I could to try to help you guys out, and I'm just fortunate that it did work.
Yeah, it was rocky there at the beginning, but yeah, you jumped right in and head first and got us our pricing, got us back on board.
Yep.
Do they offer you training and support?
Yep. So kind of the way it's set out, it's not. You're not sitting in an office training. It's a lot of it's on the job, by the fly. There's a training program. So you have 3 months. There's a specific format. They want you to do certain, what do you want to say, sales calls, but They have a format that they want you to do as scripted. And, scripts don't always work that well, especially in this industry. They don't. So you kind of have to wing it, feel your customers out and go from there. But
so a large part of your let's talk about your supposed to be duties, what you're supposed to be doing versus what you actually do.
Yep.
Like we know in any company such as ours, you wear multiple hats and you end up doing stuff you're not not supposed to be doing. What are you supposed to be doing? Are you supposed to be just developing those relationships and facilitating, making sure Murray buys product from ABC Supply?
Yes.
And then you hand those orders off to somebody else and they're supposed to handle the logistics?
That is correct.
Okay.
So, and outside of that, I mean, with quotes and everything, it should be to a point where if there's a quote that needs to be done, I have inside staff and support to do those quotes, but they send them to me for basically a final check to say, hey, is this pricing right? Do you understand you forgot this or you need this? And then, okay, we can send it off. So yes, that's a big part for a salesman. Traditionally, we should be out wining and dining, having fun, and just engaging all day, every day. And even with COVID and everything else, the last 2-3 years, the mentality has shifted on what a salesperson or what those types of roles actually involve. But a big thing too is, you should never hear it's not my job. That's not my job duty.
Yep.
Because, us as ABC, you as Murray, you can't draw that line. I mean, if you want to be invested in what you're doing, you have to make sure that you know what to do and you can get the job done regardless.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a give and a take. That Dustin probably won't like to hear this, but the old adage when Dustin was your sales rep, it was a catch-22 because Dustin would take you out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and pay for the tab. So whenever Dustin invited you out, it was like,
yeah,
oh man, this is going to be a fun one. Rack up our tab as much as we can. But then again, it was always, he was doing that with a lot of customers, a lot of clients. And so if you needed something and you were in the office working and you couldn't get a hold of him, you knew it was because he was probably out drinking with another roofing company. So that sucked as well. But
sure,
you can't have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
But where I was going with that is you are absolutely right. For the first, God, I want to say 2-3 years of Dustin's relationship with us, it was like purely Dustin spoiling us.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing. It was like anytime we wanted to go out, all we had to do is call Dustin, and Dustin would come and pay the tab.
Yep.
And it kept us loyal. I completely, it opened my eyes and my world to that side of gaining relationships with people. But the last, even before COVID, the last 2 years of our existence with him, he was so busy. And we were so busy, there was just no time, kind of like our relationship with you now. There's just hardly any time that we actually get to just go out and have fun and relax like we used to. And like today, hopefully we get to go out after this, but you're already saying you got stuff you got to do after. I got commitments. It's going to be a short, quick lunch and off we go. But, well, this is, in fact, if you've listened, a fun lunch Friday. So let's crack our beer. Did you already take that off?
Yeah.
You cheater. But talk to us about that. Touching on COVID.
Yep.
Talk to us about that. So you're 4 years ago.
Yep.
So you were well before COVID. You were acclimated, running before COVID.
Yep.
Then you experienced COVID, and then now we're coming out of this, which I'll touch base on a little bit later if I remember. But I think the economy thinks because of especially in the building industry, they were tuned in, and I tuned a lot of our clients into the lumber crisis. And then now you start to see this lumber crisis kind of go away slowly.
Yes.
But we're slowly starting to level out a little bit higher than what I hoped we would settle out at, but it's starting to settle out. Mm-hmm. And then you have COVID that's kind of becoming hopefully a thing in the past. Kind of rears its head every now and again. But so as those two things disappear, they're starting to think that our world has become easier or settled down.
Yeah.
I mean, I shit you not, I get calls from clients saying, hey, I see the lumber index is going down. Do I get a credit on my house? Or just the other day, we had a client that signed a contract and then got on Zillow and noticed that a customer had, after like 2 weeks, had lowered the price on their house. So thought the market was slowing down, either A, wanted to back out of the contract, or 2, get a cheaper price. Sure. In our world, it has not at least for us, has not slowed down, has not gotten better with shipping.
That is
has
correct.
not gotten better with price increases. Matter of fact, it's still getting worse.
Yep.
But touch base on that. Go from the beginning. I kind of touched on a lot of topics there. But
No, you're good. So, I mean, when we started, I wasn't here for the 2016 storm. I mean, that storm put a lot of people on the map. I mean, it was big, and I understand that.
it was awesome.
But we had, keep in mind, it was, I think, 2019, very beginning of 2019, before, or was it 2018 when Easter? It was 2019, the Easter storm.
Yep. Wilderness Ridge, Wilderness Hills.
Yep. So that really helped out
Yep.
and kind of set up a lot of what was going on going into COVID. So business-wise, for a lot of us, we were fortunate because we had something to lean on. And right when COVID started, no one really knew what to expect or what to do. There were no plans in place because there wasn't enough information to know. So, you're doing business as usual. You're scheduling out a week or 2 weeks, for a siding to come in because everything's stocked or shingles are stocked. And then after about 2 or 3 months, you start to realize people aren't going to work. You're not getting the material you need. How are you going to get these out? So you're spending more money on freight, everything else. So really, and that's the hard part now, is the evolution over the last few years. COVID has gone in certain areas, but the impact for us, it's going to last longer, probably 2 or 3 more years. Reason I say that is majority of the time now, and not being able to get out and socialize, one thing that we see a lot of is we're stuck in the office and we're trying to figure out the logistics of how to get material and take care of our customers. And it's not just material, it is the labor standpoint as well. And, I'll touch on both of these in different aspects, but on the material, so right away, hey, everything's great. Then the labor starts pushing out, hey, people aren't coming to work, so we have to reduce this. Well, then people aren't allowed to go to work. They're separated on their beliefs on, do I get the vaccine? Do I not get the vaccine? Do we require it? Do we not require it? So, instead of people coming together and helping each other, a lot of people were segregated and have animosity towards each other, where if someone hypothetically doesn't want to wear a mask, doesn't want to have a vaccine, and someone does, they don't want to be on the same shift together.
Yep.
So one person doesn't go to work, both don't go to work, and it's a big impact on the entire economy and the culture. And it's horrible to see it that way, but coming down to that, you start to see the lead times extend. And then with all the tariffs and everything from China and Europe and just everywhere, bringing material in, the cost of bringing material in is insane. So when COVID started, I want to say a shipping container was probably around $4,800 to come from China. Beginning of last year is $21,000.
Holy cow.
So when you see your nails come in and your caps come in, all of those metals come from China. Your felt and your synthetics, all that stuff comes from overseas.
Yep.
There are a few manufacturers, granted, here in the United States, but the production and the cost getting it in the United States is still higher than getting it from overseas.
Yep.
So when these tariffs and everything else are in place, not to mention the freight costs, it increases substantially. So that's why you see nails that, Menards or us, for wherever you go from $25 a box to $60 a box in a matter of 6 months. There's a reason for that. The same thing is we're in this business to make money, but we understand to have those relationships and partnerships, we can't always make a profit on everything. There's a lot of projects that we've lost a lot of money on. The same with you. I'm assuming the same thing with home build.
Unfortunately, I audited our books the other day and I wanted to cry.
Yeah.
I knew some of the houses were going to maybe break even to a low profit margin. I was telling clients that I was hopefully going to be 2 or 3%, but it's negative. And to touch base on that, what a lot of people don't see, including myself, is the little items that creep up on you. Mm-hmm. There's so many of the little items. For instance, when we do shingles, what's the number one question you get when somebody calls in is, what's the cost per square of shingles,
yep.
Right? Because that's your big ticket item. So we used to, before we partnered kind of exclusively with ABC, you'd call around and ask how much your shingles are per square. Whoever had the cheapest shingles per square, you'd purchase it from. Yep. But now it's the accessories, the nails, the caps, the vents, the metal flashings, and so those items, when a box of nails goes from 25 to 60, and then ridge vent goes up $20 a linear foot, all those little items are starting to supersede the discount or the cost of the larger items.
Yep.
So all these little items for us, when I audited a house the other day, a lot of the the big ticket items that are referred to, foundation, truss package, lumber package, all those big ticket items matched. And so I couldn't quite understand or find where the miss was. But it was the little things, just the cost of a dumpster, the cost of a porta potty, like you're saying, shipping.
Yep.
All these little items ate up to like $45,000.
Wow.
So it took me from a 9% profit margin in a normal market to like a negative 3% profit margin.
Oh my gosh.
And I couldn't find it because it was hidden in those little teeny items. But no, keep going about the logistics. I don't want to dive too far into the shingle industry because we actually got Michael Gooding, Mike Gooding coming on next week. So
okay.
I'll get into the weeds with that. But.
Yeah, and I mean, for the industry itself, and it depends on the type of brands that you use too. The cheapest isn't always the best. You understand that you either want quality or you want cheap. You can't have both. You can't have quality for cheap, for dirt cheap. It's just, that's not how it is. That's why you build custom homes. There's a reason for that. So, understanding those factors, and when you throw in your warranties and everything else. So, and again, I know you're going to touch on it, but when you're looking at your vents and all your accessories, if you're selling a full Golden Pledge, you're selling a warranty, you have to use the items. A lot of times the specific manufacturer items, they're a better quality. They are a lot more expensive than the other ones. Yep. So we can get something cheap, but do you really want to put that on the house? Some people do, some people don't. Absolutely. And you look at your invoice records and everything, you can clearly see that trend that you put quality on. So you want to make sure that price is higher. Unfortunately, it is what it is. But the other thing that touches on it, not only on the shipping and the cost there, but people don't understand on the labor side of it, what's going to happen is you see everyone with a now hiring sign. I mean, who's struggling to hire right now? Everyone. Yep. Okay. So what do to hire? They're desperate. So everyone is like, all right, well, we're going to pay you a normal $12 an hour in an entry-level job. I have to pay you $16 an hour now. Okay. So are you going to tell me if I hire you at $16 an hour in 6 months when the market crashes and tanks, can I take $4 an hour away and say, never mind, you're paid $12 an hour now?
Absolutely.
So that's the thing is being able to do that can't happen. So now you're paying someone $16 an hour for a $12 an hour job. You can't give them price reduction. So how are you able to reduce your prices? And the same thing, and it's unfortunately a trickle effect. Yeah. You see it with the manufacturers. If a manufacturer is paying someone $25 an hour to be on a line because they need them there, they're not going to give you a price decrease. You're not going to see a decrease in shingles. If asphalt goes down, you still have your glass mat, you still have your granules, you still have the labor that's high. Yep. Okay? So one portion might go down, but nothing else does. They can't drop that price because now they are paying someone a higher price. So in return, their product has to stay at a high price for them to be able to make some profit.
It's crazy when I was auditing homes over the last couple of months and coming out of COVID, I was struggling with that exact philosophy. And I don't have the answer, but for instance, like your HVAC guy, he will raise it $1,000 or $2,000 based upon COVID, shipping, material, etc. So my exact question to all these guys was, because these are fixed costs, a lot of these, that we don't necessarily, we do a hybrid of fixed cost and cost plus.
Sure.
So some of those are fixed costs. How do you tell a homeowner that, hey, everything's on you during COVID? Hey, if concrete goes up, if HVAC goes up, if copper goes up, you're totally responsible. I know you have a fixed loan, but who knows what it's going to cost to build your house? So it's kind of hard to sell a client on that concept of you don't know how much it's going to cost if they have a fixed loan. Mm-hmm. So we try to do a hybrid where only certain things, a lot of the stuff that they select, their allowances are what can vary. But when your electrician's calling saying that the copper is going up, so we have to raise our price, and lumber is going up because of COVID and everything, where I'm going with this. But my exact question to them is, okay, so when we come out of COVID, when copper goes back down, when the cost of plywood goes back down, are you going to lower your price? And their answer is yeah, but I know as well as you do, they're not.
Yes,
they're not.
Correct.
So it's frustrating. It's confusing for us on how to tell clients we have to raise our price because of, for instance, copper is going up. Yep. But then as copper comes back down, they're asking for a discount, and you're not able to give it to them. Yeah. And that's just one example of many that I completely agree. We saw these soaring prices, and prices went way up that we're having to pass on to the consumer. But whenever we do fix the economy, are the prices going to come back down?
Yeah. Well, it comes to it as well. I mean, when you're signing a contract in, and it, like you said, you have some that are fixed, some that are cost plus. But so for our industry, you know as well as I do, unless it's an extremely large project, even with that on the commercial side or residential, whatever it may be, if we quote something today and you know this project can't start for 6 months or 9 months, that manufacturer does not care.
Yep.
So right when it happens, you order material. You could order material today, but since it's delayed, they charge us when it's the time of shipment, not the time of order.
Yep.
So if we place an order today, I mean, same thing. You go to McDonald's or whatever, you go buy a cheeseburger now, but you want to pick it up in 2 weeks. Are they going to charge the same price if they have an increase? Yeah, they're going to increase their price.
Absolutely.
So that's the same thing in our industry that we're finding out where in all these price increases, you can't keep up with them.
Correct.
And it's hard on both commercial and residential. I mean, we just got another commercial increase in September. We just had one in, I believe, June or July. And then it went up again in September, and they're still talking about another one at the end of the year. Shingles, they talked about having another price increase by the end of the year, but right now it sounds like they're probably holding pretty strong and staying where they're at. But with price of some material coming down, why are the price increases still going up? Again, it's because of, like you said, all the little items, the small ticket items that you don't realize that are added into it start to add up, and every business is starting to realize on their net profit it's not there. And what are the reasons? And they start breaking that down and saying, the only way we can do this is if we increase our prices to make sure that we can still keep our business alive. You know, it's small business and large business that's going for.
And I put myself in this situation, but what I'm learning is I hate being in the position that I'm in. Because if you talk about the economics from, say, production to consumer, we're business to consumer. You know, I find it's a lot easier dealing business to business. So, you know, your production calls you and they say, hey, we have an increase. You know, you guys don't balk or threaten them to leave. Yep. It's not emotional. It's a business decision that you knew was going to happen, right? Yes. And then ABC calls Murray and says, hey, we have a price increase. It's the normal day-to-day operations of doing business. We just accept it. So the buck gets passed down the road. You know, but then when it gets to Murray or any builder or any right. business to consumer, it's hard to call that client and say, oh, by the way, the cost of your roof that we signed a month ago is going up 7-10%. You know, they'll either give us a bad review, fire us, go find another company. So it really, we get price increases probably 5 times a day through all the vendors, subs that we deal with, and trying to deal with that and figure out how much it's going to affect you, how long before it comes into effect. Because like you said, you get price increases and then you don't know if they're going to stick or not, right? You get notices that prices might be going up. Yep. And then so what is the end consumer supposed to do? Like, do we build that in? Do we not build that in? Is it coming? Is it not coming? Yep. And so yeah, it's really tough. It's been a nightmare to juggle and to figure it out. And you win some, you lose some.
Yeah. Well, and even perspective there on a side note, we were looking to redo a fence. So just the same thing. I mean, we got a couple different bids because we don't do it actively. So we got recommendations on who to use for an actual fencing company. And we got a few over, and someone just came out again today, and you know, highest one, and it wasn't a lot. I mean, it was 165, 170 foot and 2 gates, and it was $10,000. I'm like, how the hell is a fence $10,000? You know, and I'm trying to reason through it. So just same as you, we know materials. We know what it should cost. We know what labor and everything else. So I'm trying to look through this bid. One bid that's $10,000 isn't actually detailed. I see a labor cost and I see a material cost, and that's it. And I'm like, well, give me a breakdown, like reason with me on this. Yep. Then I get 2 others that are fairly close, but both of them are like $6,900, and I know lumber's going down. So again, my question is same thing. Do you have old inventory that you're holding on that you need to dump? And I know you need to make a profit. I get it. Like small business, I get it. I'll support you. Yep. I just need a reason in my head on what's going on. But if you're $3,000 or $5,000 higher on a small fence like that, I'm trying to understand and you don't have the details. Give me the details and I'll
Absolutely.
try to reason through it.
Yeah, that's literally what I deal with on a day-to-day basis. I beat my subs down to try to hold as close as they can. But when they're going to get hired to do extra work, for instance, we don't make any money on supplements,
Sure.
right? So, for instance, if they hire my trim carpenter to do a lot of furniture, do a lot of extra stuff on the side,
Okay.
and then they always call me and ask why he's charging so much. You know, it's because in our industry, we do obey. When you have a good relationship like we have, or a good relationship with your trim carpenter, you hold his feet to the fire on trying to make sure that Murray can keep their costs down to keep going, to keep our doors open. And so he's not going to burn us. So if his costs go up, he eats a little bit of it, we eat a little bit of it. And we keep him busy, all of our subs, you know, basically year round. So they're loyal to us.
Yep.
But when a client wants you to stop doing what you're doing and do something completely different that takes away from your day-to-day operations, from your moneymaker, with your loyal clientele, loyal businesses, you got to charge for it.
Yep.
And you got to charge a premium. And so when our clients get these estimates, they're shocked, you know, and they're wondering why they're being charged so much. And it's because it's the one time that they're actually able to charge normal pricing, retail pricing for stuff. And like I said, a lot of people are shocked when they have to have somebody come back and do something extra that's outside of the box, what the price is. Well, like I said, they have to charge for that.
Yeah.
And it's breaking their schedule. They're 3 to 4 months out. So it's a little tough having to explain that and explaining that to people, because like you said, we're always the bad guy that seems like we're trying to take advantage of the consumer, and it's not like that. But.
And that's the hard part is, you know, the normal consumer also understanding, you know, they want to build a home, they want it done right away, because we're in an industry and a point, you know, the society now is instant gratification. Everything is instant. I can do it get fast. I can get it now. I can get it now. But quality is not always fast. You know this. So some things are delayed, and some people don't have the patience to wait for that, or they think it's an excuse when it's not. I mean, you need something that's going to take, like you said, it's 4 or 6 months out. How are you going to combat that? Yep. You know, either you find a shitty sub that can do it in 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and then there goes your reputation and your quality. Or, you know, you have that conversation with the homeowner where, you know, you and other customers as well. I've told them, I said, if you have a homeowner that is that upset, have them call me. Have them call the distribution, and I will explain to them on my end that what roadblocks we have and challenges we have, you know, because there's so many different variables and factors in it that general society doesn't understand, because we are in that instant gratification.
Yep. You know, along those lines, what I was thinking is understanding how much the homeowners hate hearing this. We also hate hearing it.
Yes. Because
there's a few bad apples, right? There's always a few bad apples that ruin it for the batch. The contractors, for instance, contractors that you hear go out of business, take people's money, don't do it right, don't follow codes. So right now, the large majority of vendors, subs, suppliers are being affected by COVID, were affected by COVID, timeline and price, right? But I think what you have happening is you have some subs and some suppliers that probably weren't affected or not as bad, but they noticed the trend of being able to use the word COVID delays. And so we have a lot of subs that use the excuse of, oh, it's COVID. It's COVID. My prices went up because of COVID. It's like, you were not affected. Like, I feel like they're jumping on the bandwagon. Whenever anything happens, they might have a delay because of a sickness or whatever, but they're like, it's COVID, man. You got to understand. I'm delayed 2 or 3 weeks because of COVID. It's like, they just give a bad taste. I'm so over this whole, you know, price increases and delays because of COVID shipping, but we're not through it. We never will be. It just sucks. Is like, I get hit from so many different directions with it, and then the few that you don't think it affected, then they start calling you and telling you they're going to raise their prices. Like, I just can't win right now.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. Even with, you know, on our side, we usually have a pretty general idea, but there are some manufacturers that, like you said, you don't use all the time. So we'll get a quote over, or we'll get something over for a specialty product, and we'll send it off, and then we'll ask for a freight quote, and they'll give us a freight quote, or they'll say, no, this is all in cost. Then we get an invoice and we have a $2,000 freight. And again, I can't tell you how many times we've eaten that. Even last month, which I won't give you the exact number, but in August alone, just for us transferring materials from other branches, this isn't from manufacturers, we paid $75,000 last month just transferring material in so we had material for our customers.
Holy cow.
And the thing is, you go to our yard, we have more material than you could ever imagine, but we don't have what you need. And that's the thing is we do and we don't. So if you are putting on a roof, and you're missing tan gutter apron, it's back ordered. Nobody can buy it. So if someone was sitting on a nice inventory before, they're dwindling theirs, but they're not having the replacement. So when that's gone, it's gone until the manufacturer decides to actually run that production schedule.
Yep.
And a lot of the manufacturers now is they have very strict schedules. And the same thing is we're capitalizing on a market. They've realized, hey, we're not making money on some of these premium products. We're going to discontinue this, or we're going to just put this on hold for a while. Your options are here. Well, to trickle that down, sometimes, so this is a perfect example, is we had samples that came in, and we actually just got them a few weeks ago from a manufacturer that we know that there's something discontinued, right? Okay, we've sent the letters and everything out. They send us the literature and the sample boards. It has the discontinued products still on there. So they sent us the old boards because they can't produce the new ones, but they didn't have anyone to go and take time and cross out or remove the old product that cannot be on there.
Same with the shingle industry, not to get in the weeds with that, but GAF, I would venture to say $1 billion industry, right?
Yep.
Company. They discontinued a large portion of their colors.
Yes.
And their main lines. And they actually got rid of some lines, right? Some specialty shingles.
Yep.
And said, hey, during COVID, because of the issues that they have, which we could get into, we're going to discontinue 90% of our portfolio and strictly produce these 3-4 main colors that people typically buy.
Yep.
So anything out of that scope, you had to tell people. And it sucks. Because when your business to consumer, it seems like Murray Roofing is the reason that they can't get that color.
Yes.
Murray Roofing is the reason that they can't figure out a way to get that. And it has, really nothing to do with that. It's
exactly.
And we'd lose a lot of clients because they would literally, like what you're saying, their website wasn't updated, the sample boards weren't updated. You give them a sample board and they'd pick a color that was no longer produced by anybody, but another roofing company might have it in stock on the ground.
Yep.
And so we'd lose a sale because of it.
Yep.
So yeah, it is tough. Tough.
And you're not in that boat alone. I mean, I get those phone calls every day, and I hate them. I mean, I do. That's a big part of the job is trying the logistics to figure out if you have something, how can we get it? How can we get it quickly? Yep. And that's where Mike, and like you said, he's coming. He's been a great partner to partner with and everything as well. But what we've done is, we have shingles from 4 different plants, right? They're all the same color, but if they're a different plant, we consider it as like a do not mix. So we have them separated. So orders go out from this plant. If you need to pick up material, we need to make sure what address. So we have it from that plant.
Yep.
So you don't run into an issue of blending or whatever else it may be. But that's with a lot of the manufacturers to be able to support us because they are doing whatever they can to support us. They're not the only ones. There's a lot of different manufacturers that are saying, hey, you know what? We want to support our distribution. We want to support our customers. The only way to do it is to think outside the box. How are we thinking outside the box? We're going to pull from a different market because right now, Texas and Oklahoma, they haven't had the storms. They're not as busy as they were last year. So all this production that they had on schedule, they've produced and they have this material on the ground, but now they have to get it up to us. They are, but it's a do not mix. So how are you going to combat that?
What a logistical nightmare, right?
It is.
Nobody knows about this. It's all behind the scenes. So to kind of shed a little light on that, you can get a GAF shingle from one plant, a GAF shingle from another plant. The dye lots are a little bit different.
Yep.
So the black is a different black.
Yes.
And then now we're having that problem with gutter apron, metals, every different color that is from the same manufacturer is labeled the same color.
Yep.
Is different.
Correct. And the nice thing is with the shingles though, they have on all their labels are clearly marked on where they're at.
Yep.
So, on distribution standpoints, what they do is every distribution does this. They segregate it. They figure out what's from what plant. You make sure you make notes on the forms, on the order forms, whatever it is, so they know when it goes out, and then delivery confirmation pictures to understand, all right, well, that's a blue label. That was from Shafter or wherever or Minnesota or wherever it is.
Yep.
So that's how they do that.
Yep. Yeah. It's crazy behind the scenes how
Yeah.
hard it is to own and operate companies, right?
And that's what, that's what a lot of people don't understand. We don't understand a certain aspect of our manufacturers. We don't understand an aspect of all the customers either, because there's so many little things behind the scenes.
Yep.
We can assume,
Yep.
but that's all we can do. We would be here all day long if we asked every question on what you do.
Yep.
You can't do that.
For sure. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
I'm gonna let you take a drink. Okay, well, we've talked a lot of serious stuff.
Yep.
Anything else you want to highlight about issues,
No,
COVID, deliveries?
Yeah, the only thing with deliveries and that kind of stuff is, distribution, roofing companies, custom homes, all of that. It's when the storm hits, it is a good thing. For a homeowner, they don't want to hear that.
Yep.
But that's what keeps us alive. That's what keeps our families fed.
Yep.
Is unfortunately when storms hit, that's how we are able to support our families.
Yep.
So when that happens, there's a busy season. Okay. And a lot of homeowners don't understand this either. And a lot do. Again, there's some people that are very educated in it, some that unfortunately aren't. But what happens is there's a busy season, and that busy season is usually the middle to end of July till the end of October, right before winter. And when that happens, other customers, everyone is like, hey, we want to get this stuff done before the end of the year. The homeowners want this before the snow starts to fall. We need to get this on the schedule. So when you're looking at, you have material coming in, you have material going out, your input has to be more than your output, right? That's not always the case because we have a very, very large fleet. We run usually 8 roof load trucks and 8 semis, 2 box vans for siding.
Holy cow.
It's a lot.
Yep.
But you look at it this aspect, all right, can we really run 20 trucks a day? Because what if someone calls in sick, right? We had this happen. We had a driver that ran out of hours. So I called John and said, hey, John, we were supposed to deliver this afternoon. He's taken out first thing in the morning because he ran out of hours.
Yep.
DOT hours regulation. I said, he'll have it first thing off the truck. And he's like, no big deal. Like, the crew will be out there. He called me. He's like, dude, where's that material at? I said, it's out there first thing. It'll be out there first thing this morning.
That happened a lot.
It does happen. But that's the thing is you have logistics on that side of it too, where, you have to rely on people. And you have to rely on people. You have to have confidence in your team and your employees, right? You cannot do everything yourself.
Yep.
You look at it in that aspect and you start relying on people. You have to have the right people in place to rely on. We're fortunate to have a very, very solid team, but things still happen. Accidents happen. People get injured. Something personal happens. Trucks break down. That's the other thing is with 8 and 8, you can't run all the trucks at one time because hydraulic leak,
Yep.
Transmission goes out on a truck, whatever it may be. So you have a truck in the service shop.
Yep.
So what are you going to do? So you have to have a buffer in there
Yep.
to be able to have that, if something happens, how can you still service what you need to?
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point that I've talked about with a lot of clients back when I was actually on the sales side is so if you take your normal operational year, let's say Murray does just a random number of 1,000 roofs a year.
Mm-hmm.
So we're built to do 1,000 roofs a year, from logistics to processes to orders to manpower. Everything is built around that. And ABC Supply, you probably look at your inventory, you look at your sales, you look at your ins, your outs, everything around a normal year.
Yep.
And then when you get a storm, say you go from 1,000 roofs to 5,000 roofs,
Yep.
and every one of them needs done that year. And that's the promise that you have to make the client to get the job.
Yep.
So you're operating, you can't operate at that 5,000 roofs per year. Every year you'd go broke.
Exactly.
Right? You can't keep the lights on, but you have to capitalize on that one storm you get because, like you said, every other year is a down year.
Yes.
You wait for those those storms, unfortunately, like you said. But so you have to capitalize on that. So now every roofing company in town is trying to hire the few salesmen we have in the pool and more trucks and everything, and you're all trying to capitalize in that 5 times amount of business, although you can't hire 5 times amount of workforce. And so it makes it extremely difficult for all of us.
And the bad news conversations, I've said this before. I said, I would love to wake up one day and not have to break bad news to someone. I would. I mean, and unfortunately, that's not going to happen anytime soon. You know, the phone calls, I had a conversation yesterday with someone. They go, how many calls do you actually take in a day? I said about 80, 85. He's like, I thought I had a lot of fucking calls. That's a lot of calls. I said, I'm telling you, I don't think you understand because, you know, and it's small questions, large questions. Hey, where's this material at? But it's not only that, it's, hey, I got a problem. I need a solution, or I've got something that's coming up in the forecast. How can we figure this out now or be proactive on it? So there's so many variables that go into it, but you know, you look at that sheer volume where in a storm year, you might have 20, 30 phone calls a day, or on off year. Yep. You know, a storm year, we had a storm this year and we're fortunate for it, you know, in a certain aspect and especially for our businesses, but that carries over. I mean, this storm will carry over until next year in the area because the entire state of Nebraska outside of the heart of Lincoln got hit, you know, and then the heart of Omaha, portion of Omaha got hit, Omaha or Lincoln, just a sliver, and then everywhere in the outskirts, western Nebraska, everywhere else got hit except us too. But with that, there's so much business here that you can't lose sight of your custom homes. You can't lose sight of everything else that you're doing. So you have to manage both. But like you said, your output, if you go from 1,000 to 5,000, how can you support that?
Correct.
And then with having the supply chain issues and the labor issues that everyone has, you have to think outside the box.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's why our entertainment unfortunately goes to the wayside and has the last year and a half because we're doing so much work. There's not as much time for play.
I hear you. Let's segue into that. I'm sure we're probably over our time limit, but one of the last things I want to talk about is after all this negative talk and COVID talk, which like you're saying, hopefully we get through that at some point, right? With inflation, hoping that it'll get curbed at some point and interest rates going back down and returning to some sense of normalcy.
Sure.
Maybe we just have to accept the new normal. Who knows? But anyways, enough of that shit. Talk about some of the fun things. 4 years, we have the ABC golf outings, trap shoots you've taken us to. Jesus, thank you so much. You went to my wedding in Vegas.
Yep, that was a good time.
Missed my reception, but brought me a gift. You guys were sick. And I appreciated you doing that because we had a lot of her elderly grandparents there that were extremely worried about that. So when you were like, hey, we can't come, we think we have COVID, I was like, no, that's excellent. But talk about some of the fun times, fun experiences you have.
And that's the same thing, is the same type of culture. I mean, Murray, work hard, play hard. We do the same thing at ABC, and that's just kind of my culture as well. I mean, being extroverts, that's one thing we like to do is get out. Yep. You know, and with all of this stuff hitting, it takes a toll on us emotionally. Mm-hmm. So to be able to get out and relax and do these types of things is great. And that's one thing that we definitely take pride in is, you know, being able to treat our customers and people who are loyal to us is really going out and going the extra mile. And that's the thing, is it's not always just a luncheon here or a dinner here. You know, it's volleyball with the guys. It's going out to NFL games. It's going to golf. I mean, whatever it is, you know, we try to have a trend where the projects, or not the projects, but the entertainment that we know everyone likes, we try to have a yearly commitment for. Yep. You know, golf. Outside of us being able to go out to golf just together as a customer, you know, you and I, we like to see all the customers get together because, you know, you guys share pain points and everything as well. Yep. You know, the trap shoot, we do that every year. We'll have that again this year, and I'll tell you guys the dates on those. We have a tailgate tomorrow, and we'll have one in
we'll be there.
Perfect. And then we'll have one for the Minnesota game as well. But, you know, it's one of those where everyone busts their ass all the time. Yep. We want to make sure that you guys be able to just relax and not have to fit the bill because, again, you know, when you take all your employees out, it's a pretty hefty bill. Yep. You know, and understanding that we do take pride in that and saying, you know what, I'm not going to complain about it. You're going to want to call me and say, hey, I got everyone out here. You guys want to stop by? I'm like, yeah. And, you know, I'll pay you the bill. I don't care. But that's what we're here for, is to support you and not just to brag and be like, hey, we're going to take you out and do this and do that. Yeah. I don't care.
Yeah,
you know,
you guys, yourself and ABC sets themselves apart with that.
I appreciate that.
My first experience was in Denver with our rep there, and then Dustin, and then you, and it's unequivocally unusual for
Yeah.
for our market, and you guys do a hell of a job. You know, the ABC golf outings, like you said, the trap shoot, the tailgates, and then you guys co-op with GAF, or is that completely separate?
Not always. So like for the tailgate, we do that one all by ourselves. The NFL games, depending on which ones they are,
Yep.
you know, Mike's a big Chiefs fan,
Yep.
so a lot of time the Chiefs games, that's why we co-op with them on that. But
That's
you know,
awesome.
But the crazy thing is even the costs in those, and not to get into it, but the costs are so high. If you knew what the tailgate cost that we're going to do for the Chiefs Bills game is absolutely insane.
And that's like where I was going with that was that's like one of the most fun events, other than the ABC golf tournament.
Yes.
That's one of the most fun events that when you're able to invite it's just not me getting invited.
Yes.
It's just not Tom getting invited. And matter of fact, when you guys have limited tickets, I usually give up my seat to allow the other people in the company to go to experience what we experience. It is so amazing getting to take Gabe and John and other people in the company to this, and just they're like, holy shit, this is all free? It's like, it is.
Yeah.
It is, man. Chiefs tickets, box seats, food, drinks, hotels, everything. And then you guys don't do that just once a year, like you're saying. You do it for a lot of people on multiple occasions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it speaks volumes for your company and the loyalty that people show to you. Because our company looks forward to maybe 3 events a year, and I think all 3 are your guys's. It's the golf outing, the Chiefs game, and tailgates.
Yep, we appreciate that too, and that's the thing is we take pride in it. Where we enjoy doing it, and I enjoy doing that kind of stuff, and that's why we're in the positions we're in. That's why I want to be a salesman, is because I love doing that kind of stuff. I love the interactions, and like you said, it's not just for you; it's for the entire teams. If I can take the whole team out every day, I would love to do it. I would have no problem in that. I just wish we had time in the day to be able to do so.
For sure. We used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit. I mean, when you first came into when I say our first office, we used to work out of my detached garage up above, and before that out of my house, my apartment. So we rented our first office over there behind T.O. House on 56th. The first time you came in there, wasn't it just me, Tom, and John?
Yeah. No, well, Kevin just started.
Okay.
So the first time we actually met was at Laszlo's. We had lunch.
Yep.
And again, same thing when I came to ABC, they're like, oh God, who's this guy? When I walk in, one of the first things Tom says, he's like, hey, he was really quiet. He's like, you got some big shoes to fill.
Yep.
I said, I know, I know Dustin, I know I do. So I'll do whatever I can to try to help you guys out. And then after that, we had a pretty good lunch, just an interaction. And then I think it was the next day I came into the office and went from there, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah. So it's just me, Tom. So on the roofing side, it's Tom and John.
Yep.
And then
Kevin
was the only one. Yeah, I just hired my first custom home PM.
Yep. So he just started, and I want to say it was maybe a month, because I started in August, so I don't remember what month he started in, but it's right before that because
June or July.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So we were 4 people.
Yep.
3, then 4, and a small office, and then speak to the growth.
And that's the thing is, the growth here, and it speaks volumes when in 4 years you've had to move to 3 different office spaces just to grow your team and to be able to support the people that you have and that you need and that you want here. And seeing that evolution in time, that just goes to show the success of not only Murray Custom Homes, but roofing and restoration as well. I mean, you have so many different aspects where a homeowner, they take pride in that, in who they work with, and the homeowners that have those small businesses. That's why you're able to grow, is because you're doing it the right way.
Yep.
And that's always nice to see. And I love saying that I take pride in being a part of that and saying, hey, I'm part of this crew and part of this team in a certain aspect because, they're doing this, and I'm hoping I can answer whatever questions I have along the way.
Yeah, it's awesome. And the reason I said speak to that is because me and Tom often find ourselves in the office looking at QuickBooks and seeing out what our sales are for the year. Because, we meet yearly and annually and come up with some projections and come up with what we hope to do and what you hope to do for us. And so me and Tom are always excited to see if we're hitting those metrics for you and hitting those metrics for ABC. Because, like I said, you and ABC treat us so well.
Yeah.
We we hate to short you guys on what we projected for the year. So we're always in there like high-fiving or saying, shit, we got to get our sales up.
Yeah.
So we're like trying to sell stuff literally to satisfy your guys' metrics, because we don't ever want to get kicked out of these invites.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, the nice thing too is, look at your showcase and stuff out there. I take pride when I walk in, I see all the ABC trophies, the purchase trophies, the golf trophies, you name it. I mean, you guys have trophies for everything.
Yep.
And we definitely take pride in that, because I'm like, you know what? I got the Murray guys that I can always rely on coming, because I know they appreciate it and that they're here for it.
Yep, it's awesome. Well, guys, I think we're out of time. Zach, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for coming. I know that you've been a loyal listener to the for the little bit amount of time that we had this podcast going, but thank you, and appreciate you being here. Thank you for everything that you've done, and thank you for everything that you're going to continue to do, hopefully
I appreciate
in the future. So we're continuing to grow, and you'll grow with us. But thank you guys. Thanks for everything. Thanks for tuning into this episode, and enjoy the ride.
If you have questions or topics you'd like us to discuss, you can email them to info@murraycustomhomes.com. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to Stay Modern with Murray on Apple and Spotify, or check back on our website and social media regularly for the latest episodes.